Does it have $1 million vibe? Or?
With enough thrust, you can fly a brick.
Location, 1980 Gallery.
In studio, podcast.
Hey guys, welcome back to Location 1980's Art Podcast, where we like to talk about art with artists who make the art. And I'm your host, Jesse Fortune, with my co-host, Eric Ringman.
Good evening, everybody.
And our special guest tonight,
Mr. Nick Stiles.
Yeah, and we're talking to a real titan of the urban canvas, Nick Stiles. It says here, if you've walked past a wall that made you stop in your tracks, it might have been his. So you do a lot of mural work.
Yes, sir.
Known for his bold, refined, and intricate mural work. Nick blends fine art technique with street-savvy sensibility, turning blank buildings into landmarks. From massive public commissions to deeply personal community projects, his design work pushes culture forward one brushstroke at a time. In addition to that, you don't just do murals.
No, sir.
Eric has a question about some of your
Yeah,
artwork.
I was checking out your portfolio just a couple hours ago today on your website. I noticed one in particular is Into the Woods.
Yes, sir.
Title. Beautiful piece. Definitely had the deer horns aesthetic,
Right.
the dark. What was that? True Detective. Season 1, you ever see that? A lot of that dark stuff happening in the woods. It had a little bit of that aesthetic to it, but kind of a magic quality too.
Yeah. So I'd like to do a lot of like dark, fantastic realism. Just a lot of the dark art aspect in my work.
Would you consider yourself first and foremost a muralist, or just more art general
It's hard to
designer,
say.
illustrator?
Yeah, I was trained as an illustrator, but I love to do a lot of like fine arts and stuff as well. And then murals are really good.
Most of the muralists that we've got to talk to have come from the graph community.
Right.
I'm not assuming that you don't.
No.
But you don't.
No.
But you also do murals, so it's kind of cool to talk to someone who gets up. The kids call it getting up.
Right.
But you get up without having affiliation with being a writer or whatever.
Well, and to promote that point a little further, actually, the other piece I saw on your website, the one on the fire station.
Yes, sir.
The first photo of it, it took me a second to realize I was even looking at a painting on a wall. I literally thought it was a photo of a bunch of trucks in front of the fire station and guys standing around. And then I saw you standing in front of it, and I'm like, oh shit, that whole thing, that's the painting.
Well, thank you. Yeah, that one was a big one. That was 16 by 60 feet.
Yeah, it's mega.
And but it was actually only done in 7 colors. So it was a commission by the local fire department in Rio Vista. So that was actually a small town where I grew up.
And, so is that in California?
Yes.
So you're from California?
Yeah. Born and raised. I used to be in like Ventura area, and then after growing up a little bit there, I moved to Northern California, and then
North of the Bay.
Like Eureka?
it's basically the Sacramento Delta.
Okay.
And it's a really small town. There's like 7,000 people in it. I had 90 kids in my graduating class. One stoplight.
Good disc golf out there, though.
Yeah. Something like that.
Side note, it's a recurring theme.
Oh.
So did you know some of the artists now, we've had a few dozen artists from all walks. Did you know right away, like when you were 4 or 5, like did you have siblings or some like downtime where you're like, I just draw, because a lot of times kids, you want to play outside, ride your bike, but some artists like start right away, like free time, especially illustrators.
Yeah, so basically I've been drawing since I could hold a pencil, and like a big part of that, I guess I could get into a little bit. So basically when I was like a little kid, basically on like the edge of where my memory begins, there's like some...
A couple years ago?
Yeah.
But when is it like, for me it's like maybe 4 or 5?
Yeah, probably around 4 or 5. There were some like turbulent things that happened in my childhood, and it kind of left me with some like little, scars on my brain kind of thing, where when I was a little kid, I had a lot of these like intense emotions like anxiety and a lot of anger as a kid too. And drawing was actually a really good way for me to get those feelings out. And so...
do you remember your subject matter when you first started drawing?
Yeah, a lot of it was actually pretty violent stuff.
Was it Army or military?
no Army. But, well, some of it, and that was usually based off of like video game type stuff that I was playing. But a lot of it was just like, disarticulated figures, exploding people and stuff like that. And I think I was just
finish him.
Basically, yeah. And
Junji Ito type almost.
Something like that, yeah. And I wish I would have brought a sketchbook or something, but it's crazy because like those really early sketchbooks were almost more graphic back then than when I as I was growing up. Because as I became older, everything kind of gets more refined, and nowadays I don't really do bloody gory stuff as much. It's more so like subliminally gory. It's like behind the scenes
conceptually
gory.
terrifying.
Yeah, conceptually
That
gory.
way.
Yeah, and that's because that's part of just maturing as an artist. You can draw the thing, or you can get people to think of the thing subliminally, kind of thing.
Nice. Did you follow up after the turbulent times into high school? Let's say, did you think, oh, when I grow up I want to be an artist, or did you just like keep doodling in your notebooks?
Right. Yeah. So I was constantly drawing when I was a little kid, just as a form of catharsis, getting these inner feelings out. But also, I really loved a lot of comics and like animes and stuff that were also in that realm, because there was like The Simpsons and stuff like that was on TV, but that wasn't really graphic. That wasn't what I was into. So I really liked the comic Spawn. Have you ever heard of Spawn?
Yeah.
So that was like my thing. And then see a lot of animes, like because those were like the only cartoon. I don't want to say cartoon. They were the only animated things that I could watch that were like graphic.
Yeah, they don't hold back.
Yeah.
Did you ever see Ninja Scroll?
Yep. And I watched that when I was really young too.
Oh, really? Wow. I watched it in college. Yeah.
Like, oh, this is crazy.
Jubei Kimagabi.
So when I was growing up, I was drawing a lot of those things, drawing Spawn characters and anime, and then some big monsters and military shooting scenes. And
did it dawn on you at that point, like maybe art is something I want to do?
Yeah, no, I knew early on. I mean, that wasn't the only thing I was doing. So there was definitely like this.
What else were you doing?
Well, I mean, like, I was in, so I think back to like third grade. I was doing, I wasn't drawing, these bloody illustrations, in class and stuff. It's like I knew it wasn't good to be doing these things. It was just like what I like to do on my own. But in school, I was always like, a little bit better than the other kids, and so I got praised for that. And so, I did know fairly early on that, like, it was kind of something that I was drawn to, and I knew I wanted to do it, later
So not only the content you were putting into your personal stuff, but just being technically good was its own reward as well. And you're like, ooh, I want to pull that thread further.
Right, yeah. So I was pretty relentlessly pursuing art throughout my whole childhood.
Solid.
And then by the time I got into high school, I was really lucky that I had a really good high school art teacher in this tiny town. Shout out to Ryan Pace.
Yeah, and also shout out to all art teachers, right?
Right.
Because they get overlooked often.
Yeah.
But now here we are.
Well, all the ones who encourage.
Yeah, Ryan Pace.
And because he saw this gift back when I was like, a freshman, and he leaned into a lot of that graphic stuff that I was doing. He's like, no, if you want to do like exploding limbs and all that stuff, do the best goddamn exploding limbs you can do. It's like,
instead of toying around.
No, yeah, like a lot of high school teachers are like, like, no, let's do some landscapes, or like let's learn how to draw some pottery. It's like, no, like
draw pottery,
whatever.
Oh yeah. I don't want to make pottery or draw pottery for sure.
So
he encouraged you, and then you leaned into it.
Yeah, and he even pushed me beyond that, meaning like,
excuse me.
So like Cal Arts has a summer program called CISA, the California State Summer School for the Arts, or InterSpark. Some people know about it, but it's it's pretty big league type stuff, and it's for like the gifted high school students. And
So you're still in high school doing it. Okay.
So I was sophomore going into junior year. I did the summer art program there, and I went into animation. So, and it was really intensive. Like, that was the first time I started figure drawing, was back in summer of 2007. So I've been, drawing from life since then.
Being from a small town, was it also the first time where you see other artists that are as good or better?
Yes.
And you're like, damn!
Yeah, no, yeah.
Because it can work in a good way,
Right.
but it's also nice to like finally brush up against like, oh, I'm playing with the big boys.
Definitely. And that's one of the things that like you kind of notice this, like if you're an art kid, you know, as I was, where, you know, it's like first you're like, you know, the best drawer in your class. And then you kind of keep growing up, and like as you keep honing that skill, you become like the best drawer in your grade, and then you become like the best drawer in your, you know, in town or at the high school, whatever it is.
Blue ribbon.
And to where you eventually, and then you kind of have to keep spreading your wings and
then
keep
not
going
anymore.
So then when I went to CISA, or you know, the California State Summer School for the Arts, it was like, you know, oh, everyone's good here, you know. And those teachers, there's a lot of like really great professors, teachers, whatever they are. And so I did that, went back with all this knowledge. And then the next summer, I got into the Otis Summer of Art. So then junior to senior year, I did that. And then my senior year of high school, I got into the animation program, BFA program at Cal Arts, which, you know, I don't know how rare that is, but, you know, having a...
It sounds like a fast track, though.
Right, yeah, I was like ready.
Summers.
But capitalism, and I couldn't afford it because Cal Arts is like $50,000 a year, and
is there any kind of grants or aid or something?
Well, there's grants, but that covers what, a small percentage of that.
Okay,
you know,
still
so like, and I was like so convinced. I was like, you know what, I'm still gonna do it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go to a local community college, Solano Community College, back in Northern California. I was like, all right, I'm gonna do that for a year. I'm just gonna reapply, and I don't care how much the loans are. I'm just gonna do it. Same thing happened. This is also like 2009, like financial crisis. Nobody in my family had money, you know, and like I just couldn't do it. And so I ended up getting my AA in Arts and Humanities, and then I transferred to Cal State Long Beach, where I got my BFA in illustration.
Nice.
And so I've been down here ever since.
Very cool. Very cool. So the journey after that. So I know you actually through the regular figure drawing that we host here, that we talk about on the program all the time. And I see you there 9 out of 10 times, if not more.
But he also just hosted one of our first ever instructed figure drawing.
Obviously, yeah, I want to jump into that too. I just took your class. I've been figure drawing a lot less time than you, basically only as long as I've been here, which is gonna be 5 years in a couple months.
Right.
And a very slow progression, mostly happening through the just brutality of doing it repeatedly but not really knowing what I'm doing.
Yep.
And I've told several people who didn't take that class in its endorsement, and I know I told you right after it was done, I said after even one session, this was a 4-week class, or 4 session class, after one session of that, I felt like it was 6 months of improvement that I made on my own in that. So what brought you, how'd you find 1980? How'd you get into the idea of putting on that class that was so great?
What kind of time frame were we talking to between you graduating? Did you say it was Cecil or Cal State Fullerton?
So there was CISA. Oh, are you talking about?
Like
post Long Beach.
Yeah, when you got.
So I graduated in 2015.
Right.
So it's been like 10 years. Ugh, God. So yeah, I graduated 2015 from Cal State Long Beach with my BFA in illustration. But if I wanted to branch back into the life drawing thing, very first time I drew from life, you know, like figure models and stuff, was 2007.
Yeah.
And so, you know, what sort of got me into teaching, you know, I listen to a lot of podcasts, obviously this one, but one of the things that other artists talk about is if you really want to master something, it's not just about learning the subject yourself, it's about teaching it. So if you
that's
really
the highest level of mastery.
If you want to get good at something, you got to teach it. And I'm like, well, you know, I guess I do have some things I can teach some people, but
I love that it's the like, I'm in this to make myself so good, therefore I'm going to share the gift.
Right, yeah. So it's more for me than anyone else.
That's right.
No,
whatever it takes, bro.
Yeah, so yeah, I've been doing life drawing for a long time.
Where did you land when you came out of college? Was it a life drawing situation? Or
As far, what do you mean?
I mean, like you graduate, you get your BFA.
Yeah, what was the next, I guess, art-based move?
A lot of people
after
in
that.
other industries have no idea how gnarly that is. Like, great, I got my BFA.
Oh,
Now what?
And you just walk in front of the first bus, dude.
Alcoholism. Yeah, that was my next step.
Oh, fuck. Oh, well.
No, that's actually why I don't drink anymore. So if I wanted to go back a little bit into being an art kid and having a lot of people, I don't fault my parents for this or anything, but like friends, family, teachers telling you your whole life, like, you're so good, you're so talented, you're going to do great things. I'm going to see your name in movie credits. I'm going to have a Nick Stiles original one day. This is going to be worth millions. And then you graduate, and then you don't achieve these things. Like, that kind of fucks you up.
Yeah,
so it's like...
nobody gives a shit suddenly.
Right, yeah. And so, like...
Nick who?
And so, but I did have to, like, kind of pick myself up after a bit because, after graduating, I had all these skills and stuff, but there's still no, like, guidance.
Yeah.
There's no guidance, like these professors that I had, amazing people, and I'm still friends with them and stuff, but they're not like, okay, when you graduate, you do this. It's just like, all right, go. Like, what do I do?
We've mentioned that before with different guests. If I were to insist that in every art curriculum around the whole world, you cannot graduate without taking an art business class.
Oh, yeah.
So it should be like pretty much every semester.
Right.
So then that's what I was saying. It's pretty scary when you graduate, you feel good, you're like competent, but then there's no red carpet. And a lot of the art professors, they mean well and they might be good professors, but there's a reason why they're a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times they're not working professionally sometimes. And then you just hit this market where it's usually when you move out of your parents or to, from a small town to a big city, you don't want to move back home.
Right.
Especially tucking your tail. Like, I'm not famous yet.
Well, it wasn't so much that. It was just like, she's not my wife, but I was like dating, my wife at the time, and she's like, all right, like, we're ready to like get a place together. And I'm like,
oh.
I work at a meat department at Vaughn's, I make like barely above minimum wage, and like, and also like I'm this artist, like, what am I supposed to do? Like, get this like animation industry job, like that's what I had the training for, but it also wasn't exactly like what I liked to do. Like, my last year I was doing like stone lithography and like doing these like elaborate paintings, and that's, and life drawing, and that's the stuff that I like to do versus like storyboarding and like book illustrations and stuff.
So briefly, as somebody who does not know what that is, what is stone lithography?
So lithography is, so litho means stone, and that's basically like this really early form of printing where you have basically these limestones that you draw on. So and I don't even know if they make them anymore. There's like these quarries in like Germany they had to get them from, and so basically I think all the litho stones that are made are like they're done. So if they break or whatever, it's like,
so they're reusable.
Right. So what you do is you have these big limestones. They're like 300 pounds. I mean, they could be small too. But
are they very flat?
Yes, and you have to like mill them down too, and like sand them and get them super smooth. And basically, you draw on them with a grease pencil. So you draw on them with like a pencil that has like oil in it, and then you take like this acid, gum Arabic, and you like burn acid into the stone. It's crazy.
So it does wear it away a little bit every time.
Kind of.
The thing's not like infinitely usable.
Right. I don't know if I'm explaining well. The main thing is that it's an oil and water based type printing.
Okay.
And even my day job now is lithography, but it's like on digital on aluminum plates and stuff. So it's an oil based ink that you use. So you draw on the stone, you etch it with acid, and then you roll it up with oil based ink, and you put it through a press, and then that oil based ink image comes out mirror image. So one of my more successful pieces is The Descent, with all these crazy bodies coming down, where it's just, they're kind of exploding towards the top. And there's another one, Taurus, and Hunters and Hunted, which is like this crazy triptych that I did.
I think I saw Hunters and Hunted on the website.
Right, it's big too. And so that one, basically, yeah, so I drew those with like a grease pencil, burn them in, and then you print with that.
So to purchase Are you purchasing that thing, or do you go to a place where you're like renting time?
It was my senior year of college. It was like a class that I took.
Okay.
And I just like fell in love with it.
Nice.
So
the next, so your girl, your future wife, is all saying like, "Hey, we gotta move in," and you're out here like,
I was working
kind of. I don't know what the fuck is going on.
Right. What you do? Were you a butcher? What's up?
Yeah. No, it
kind of ties into the artwork in a way.
I know, right?
You're like, finally, I'm getting bloody.
No, so I ended up. Thankfully, I got like a night job. I mean, it helped pay the bills. I worked at LAX for a bit, polishing aircraft, and
really?
So I'd do that at night and then do my artwork like during the day and stuff. And that's kind of when I was doing like.
Were you freelancing or?
Yeah, so I've done a lot of like custom commissions and stuff. So like basically like through acquaintances and stuff like that, and just
portraits or what kind of?
I don't want to.
But people come to you with an idea. They're like, I want Zeus coming out of a cloud on a dog, or like,
less of that.
That's you.
Like household. I don't want to say decorations. It makes it sound kitschy and stuff, but
they were decorated.
Household commissions, and I'll do like
on walls.
Yeah, well, some of them. I did one that was in was it North Hollywood. I did a ground mural in someone's backyard on like reclaimed brick, and it was a nightmare because well, but the brick was like old brick. It wasn't sealed, and it was in a garden, and so the brick was constantly getting wet, and so like I'd prime it, and then it would just come up, and like they would have to rehire me like every couple of years to come like repaint it, which is fine. I'm like, they want to keep paying me. It was fine.
Was that your brief introduction to murals?
So I got my first mural, let's see, when was that? Like 2013, I think. And I actually did it basically for like for free and the paint, and they fed me lunch every day. But I did it in like 8 days.
Yeah, but you're
like,
I'll take it.
A commercial public thing, or where was it?
Yeah, it was. There was a local flower shop in Rio Vista, and I had some time during the summer, and they reached out to Ryan Pace, my high school art teacher, and they were like, I think he had even moved on since then to a different place, but he referred them to me. I was like, okay, yeah, sure, I'll do a mural. I don't know what I'm doing, whatever. And then as soon as I did that, the fire chief drove by and was like, yo, can you do a mural on the fire station? And then over the next like year or whatever, they did the fundraising for it, and then like I think the next year I did a big well-paid commission, so it's like murals beget murals because they're almost like self-advertising.
Oh, yeah, they are, absolutely.
And so that's my next step, is to try to do a mural down here, because all my mural work is in Northern California, because that's where people see my murals.
You got a big ass wall out there.
I know.
Yeah, this just
get
become
the public
open.
back here.
There's a lot of public.
There's a lot that needs to happen on that wall, though.
Yeah, I had an art rep once. He told me, she was like, well, because we talked about this with our last guest, but you get credit for something you might do or you're going to do. Mm-hmm. And then like I was going to do murals.
Right.
I'd watch all these guys, the graffiti guys do murals.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, oh, I could do this, I could do that. And she just flatly said, because she had got me like live painting gigs and helped me sell a lot of work. I did a lot of shows, but she was like, yo, muralists get mural jobs when they do fucking murals.
Yeah.
And then like she called me out, and I was like, I guess I gotta I gotta get up,
Yeah, sometimes that does mean making the sacrifice of like doing one for really cheap or basically free. Yeah. Because
it worked out in your favor.
Yeah.
And the fire truck one, that's gangster, bro. That thing's great. It's almost like a film.
It was a photograph. So he provided me with a photograph. It was like a 1920s.
Was it a color photo?
No, it was a black and white photo, so I had to like colorize it and do that myself.
It seems like I looked at it briefly, but it's not just that it was from photo, because I mean a lot of murals that are realism, you have photo reference, but it seemed like a happening, like a film clip a stoppage of something that was moving. It wasn't like they're all posing or something like that.
I think it was a posed thing. Yeah, it was basically the fire department of Rio Vista at that time, which was, I forget what it was, I think 1920s, and it was basically all the fire chiefs and all the firemen with all the trucks out looking all pretty, and so that's what it...
Yeah, it has a real sense of life to it, though.
Right, it was a historical mural, and I almost got another mural from that, but it ended up not panning out, which happens sometimes.
And what year was this?
That was 2013.
So is that like when the dam broke, as far as like side hustles and stuff? You're like, oh, I could probably bust out.
I wish I could say that. I definitely still
butchering.
I would say it's more feast and famine. So like last year was a really good year for me. I actually made more doing art than my day job.
And it's that fine art pieces where you're making them, and then once it's done, like you're making whatever you want, and then once it's done, going, hey, this is for sale. Or is it more commissioned, or
more commissioned and murals? Those tend to pay a little better. But I also do sell personal work too, But so last year was more so the commission type stuff. So I did some panel murals last year, which are really cool because I can paint them at my home studio, and then I just get a U-Haul, bring them up there, and I mount them to the wall with French cleats, and so it actually worked out.
And those are going on exteriors.
Sometimes
those were interior. The last one that I did that was really cool was it was a theater mural. So it was like this old theater in Rio Vista that was being rented out by a local development company, and just as a sort of like good gesture to the town, they commissioned me for it. And basically it was like an homage to the history of that theater and like filmmaking in the Sacramento Delta. So it was really cool. It was like a really nice historical piece. That was a lot of fun. It took me like the whole year to do, but it was nice.
Oh yeah, I remember you saying you're having to go back up there.
Right.
It's kind of like are you familiar with Thomas Hart Benton?
I'm not.
He was from Missouri, I'm pretty sure. In the Missouri capital, he was famous for doing the murals where like he would show like hardworking people.
Like oil fields and
doing
stuff.
the work, or just like out there reaping and sowing and plowing and stuff. And they were usually in like a civic area. It sounds like just something that like you might have get down with it. As far as like when you were doing these, like you stumbled upon it. And I mentioned like I guess we weren't on we weren't rolling yet, but like, or maybe we were. So you didn't come from a graffiti crew, so like a lot of times. When I think of big murals, I immediately think of writers and like people that are like they're like, what do you write? And it's like our friend Rebel and Mice a Millions and whole crews, DCB crews. That's what I always thought. Like that's the only way you get up because you have to come through the crew scenario.
Really? Yeah.
And then until I met Tracy, and she did something similar. She's a totally different artist, but she's been a guest on the pod. She used to do some others market stuff where she would do it, and then I actually got to help her on a few murals where she would do it in her studio and then, ship it.
I would like to get in contact with her because I feel like there's a lot I could learn from her. I'm like, I will pay you for your time. Just like teach me some stuff.
She's a very friendly soul. She'd gladly talk with you.
She's also done some stuff for like the city of Placentia and stuff like that. She's really good at like doing civic, especially her style is Americana.
It almost reminds me of like the Orange Crate label kind of energy.
But that's her genre where it's like usually public works and very Americana,
a little bit rustic.
Pickers, like a Pickers kind of a deal. But so when you were coming up and you actually got these mural gigs, did you obviously notice like, oh well, I could sell a mural, but the fire truck one is like obviously fire trucks were like maybe across the street or downtown LA, it just says, a big, something totally different, some more street art.
Right.
Did you have like inspiration from those guys, or did you even like not even?
So I think when it comes to murals, like whether you're the what I call it a letter crew, whatever, I think all art, anyone can be a muralist. It's just basically a big ass painting, and so. I think we do what we know, and so I was trained as an illustrator, figurative artist, and, I have a lot of like the foundational skills to make like a dynamic composition and all this type stuff, versus something like, more graffiti style piece, which are actually amazing. And I want to try to do the can control thing, because being able to expedite some of that mural process with a can would be incredible. But I don't know how to do that, so I've been too timid to let me just go grab some boards and start, but I know how to use a brush and paint,
Yeah, well, shout out to Revel in Can Control 101 at location 1980, where he actually teaches you how to, and Eric and I both
101, 102, and 103. It's a 3-level course.
Yeah, where Eric and I have both taken it, and I feel the same way you do. I've had a certain level of mastery in certain specific aspects with palette knives and brushes at a certain scale,
right,
and a certain speed, and it's always in that realm. And then the first time you hit the wall and you see when the light goes on, you're right, it can go fast quick, and it's so fun, because you're oh, now that I got this, you can reapproach your work, and you have a new tool,
right.
So yeah, definitely don't miss out on that next one. Plus we have a new giant wall out there.
I really want to do a massive multi-figure dynamic thing. Doesn't have to be bloody or anything, but
Wrath of the Magi,
something like that. I mean, one of my favorite pieces is Fall of the Damned by Peter Paul Rubens. I don't know if you've seen that, but that's the type of stuff that I love to do. And I'm because with these murals and stuff, it's they're hiring me to do a thing, and I'm happy to do it, but it's all right, I want to get my work.
Yeah, take the leash off, for sure.
Yeah, so which is, there's still obviously things that I can do to get, my sort of Nick Stiles-y marks and stuff on the wall. Like the first mural I did with these crazy dynamic cows and stuff that I did, it's okay, yeah, those are Nick Stiles marks, but it's still
shoehorned into
a little bit
subject matter.
Yeah.
So you mentioned day job or other work. What else do you do that helps? We call it the art of the side hustle.
Right.
What have you done in the past, and what do you do now sometimes to keep the boat floating?
So
art-wise or otherwise?
So I do have a day job, and thankfully, because of my art background, I was able to get a job as a pre-press technician at a print shop. So we print stuff, mainly for classrooms, but it just pays the bills, nothing glamorous. But I basically take artwork and imposition it and do that. I do that 4 days a week, and then
it's like an art director kind of thing, graphic design.
Kinda, yeah. It's less creative. It's more chill, And that's kind of the goal with day jobs as an artist. Is you don't want to be the shining star. You want to just save your energy for your art.
Do it on cruise mode.
Yeah.
So that then you can show up and floor it in the studio.
Right, and so that's the goal.
Oh, that's too relatable.
I mean, eventually, I'd love to just quit it all and just full art, but it's very hard to do. But yeah, I'm starting to dig into workshops a little bit, finally. More for my sake, but...
well, also our sake, like I said, me and Eric both took your course. That was the first time we had a 4 series. So we've done non-instructed figure drawing for 15 years straight, every Wednesday. And the first 6 years of those 15 years, we also did it on Saturday or Sunday. So there was 2 or 3 workshops all the time.
Right.
And even during that time, there'd be masters like Phil Roberts that would sit in, and you could watch him draw stuff you maybe technically could never achieve. He just knows what he's doing. It's blows your mind. Mm-hmm. But he would give you tips and pointers, but it wasn't instructed. Right. And you have drinking draws and Dr. Sketchies and all these, especially here in Southern California, there's a lot of different spots. Yeah. But we never embraced or had anybody qualified to do an instructed series.
Right.
So when you did it, and this year we had a lot of pressure for keeping the studio open, and we had to start branching out. We need to do 10 things every
more
day,
programming
all the time.
More.
And you stepped up, and you're well, I'll teach this, and you wanted to do for your reasons, and we wanted it to happen for our reasons, and it worked out swimmingly. And coming from someone who's been at most of those 15 years every Wednesday, and having a decent handle on the figure. I mean, also too, I have a bachelor's in fine arts. I did my fair share of figure drawing 101, 102, and it was pretty decent. I mean, in fact, when I took your class, I switched hands and was drawing right-handed as an extra challenge. But part of it was really cool is that it wasn't just one day. It was 4 series. And then also knowing that, you might want to come back and like do something more advanced or more dynamic or whatever.
Nuanced,
but like, I was just really stoked to see like having basically rolled out the new formats of instructed versus uninstructed, and then
on our end is a little experimental. And it's a successful experiment.
It's very welcome because we are like an alternative art institute. Like people could go to OCC, but which is cool if that's what you want to do. But sometimes people are like older or they don't want to go to college. They want to be at a small studio, and that's very personable.
Right.
And you're a really good teacher, so thanks for doing that.
I appreciate that. Yeah. No. So that was my very first time teaching a class ever, and like I do have like, because I've done a lot of like illustration style classes, like some of my early stuff like that was sort of ingrained into me from like Cal Arts and stuff like that. It was really experimental, really dynamic, colorful things. And then as I kind of branched into like college, it sort of changed to where now I pretty much just use graphite, which I mean I can experiment at any time, but all these different places that I've done figure drawing, whether it's costume or like, animation based drawing or figures in context or anatomy for the artist, like all these crazy classes, it's all sort of helped me be able to inform the class. So like to try to teach a life drawing class in one day is impossible. And that's why I sort of insisted it be 4 days, which is still way too short. Like, I did 1 day on anatomy, and I literally had an entire 16-week, twice-a-week course on human anatomy in college, and it's like...
So we did it in 3 hours.
Yeah, so...
We had the abridged version.
You can't do it, but try your best.
Even though you did a great job, and I'm sure you'll come back and maybe do another series. I hope you would.
I definitely want to.
People are asking, like, for sure, us branching out and, like, letting everyone know that, hey, now we have instructor classes. Like, it was been very well received. But now that you've gone through that, because you said you didn't teach before that, but then you did it. Mm-hmm. What did you learn, and how did you feel like after that was accomplished? Did you take pride in your champion students?
Oh yeah, so well? They did. No, actually, I was really impressed by the work that everyone was putting out. I'm
because you kind of mentioned that you're doing it for you to get better,
right? Yeah, so it's. The thing that I noticed was like if somebody asks a question, it's kind of like, oh, like I didn't think about that. Like I have to sit there and think, because I can prepare the materials and like kind of regurgitate that back. But then if people have more in-depth questions, like, okay, well, how do I explain that? And so that's sort of one of the challenges that I had to figure out as I was going. And then the time management, because like I have this whole list of things I want to get through, and then we get caught up on one thing that's more.
People have questions.
Yeah, people have questions, and then it's like, all right, let's take a 5-minute break, and then 15 minutes later, everyone comes back, and it's like, okay, But I think it worked out well. There was no times where it was like I had to cut off the entire half end of the class because I didn't get everything done. But
so it's a worthwhile endeavor.
Yeah, definitely, and I want to do it again. I do think it'd be nice to know if there was more. If people had suggestions of like, what
their desires or demands
are. Like, do you want to do more like costume and like how to do costume, or like do you want to know like figures in context where you sort of incorporate proportions part of it, but also like perspective. Like scenery, textures, sort of experimental materials. There's so many different ways you can do life drawing in different circumstances. Long pose, short pose.
I would definitely vote for a more specific nature, either being axe wielding or dynamic costume,
mm-hmm. Or dynamic poses.
Yeah, because then it's like you're doing more than just the basics. You're kind of starting on second base,
right?
Regardless of your skill set, it's just more interesting,
right?
Especially if we're not taking a whole semester.
Sure.
So let's just start with the throw an axe like this, and then go from there. Because sometimes people want to learn at that pace too.
Right. For me, the level of what was done in this one was absolutely perfect at that time, because I'm somebody who's going into it, I don't even necessarily say good. I'll say like, okay, I can put together a decent figure now and then. But so I'm not the person who's like going to wine and paint knowing nothing.
Right.
But I've also, the extent of formal art training I've had has been like the high school courses. and that's it. And so somebody who's in that weird middle ground, I think I'm probably like that with a lot of skills. That's like a weird spot to be, because people are only usually training total novices or folks who've already proved, hey, you're kind of on the journey.
Right.
And so this was a rare thing that like perfectly suited me. So I was super happy with that.
That's great.
Yeah, you had a mixed bag of students.
Yeah,
I
well,
mean,
so I
That's
think
true.
artists should always revisit the basics. And one of the things I realized through going to all these different, life drawing classes, I've done so fucking many life drawing classes, and all these different professors, they all kind of have their basics and what they want to teach. And so, those are always good to revisit. No matter how skilled you are, it's like, okay, revisit. Okay, what does this professor think about, like gesture line and stuff like that? Like, what are his takes on these certain things, like anatomy and proportion? And so, I tried to make it as digestible as I could for everyone.
That was great, man. That's
So
cool.
I appreciate that. Yeah, no, there might be some like fine tuning, but I'm like, I feel like that was a good first run.
Solid, yeah. And you spawned another one because Andrew then followed up with portraiture.
Right.
And,
Like the following week or something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was fun too. I recommend if you want to come get down on that. I think he's doing another one. Is there some contemporary artists right now or art genre that you really look into? Like deviant art, there's always some wild dude, like, dude, that guy's a 15-year-old Korean that's just drawing circles around people. You're like, what?
So my favorite artist right now, probably Jeremy Mann. I don't know if you ever heard of him, or Guillermo Lorca. He's like Chilean, I think. They're just like these really beautiful, painterly, figurative artists.
You think they're mostly digital now?
No, they're all like oil based,
Yeah.
and that's the kind of type of stuff that I like to do. And that's sort of what I'm aspiring to do. Favorite dead artist, probably Peter Paul Rubens. All that crazy Baroque. I love Baroque artwork, Caravaggio.
Shout out to Baroque.
Just so much going on.
Yeah, just the dynamic figures and just big meaty figures, all that stuff. It's just like, it's so good.
We didn't get to speak about this with our last guest, but in your case specifically, we talked about this with a few of the artists, but like the introduction to AI into artwork, especially when it comes to figurative stuff or digital storytelling, illustration. That's kind of like one of the first things that can get copied by the AI.
Right.
Where do you land on that? Is it something you're like, oh, dude, I could use it for ideas, or you're like, oh my god, I'm gonna die? Freaking out.
I think it's important to have a nuanced take, because I can actually see the value in it more so. See, I look at AI art, and there's actually some artists on Instagram that I follow that do produce AI art.
And they just tell you, like,
yeah, but they're like straight up like, I'm an AI artist, and like some of that stuff is super inspirational. I've actually like gotten a lot of really good like painting ideas from it, but the whole these these training models that just like pull from all these artists that are living artists that are trying to like. It's messed up, because
it's just like a full-on plagiarism worked into the algorithm.
Yeah, it's like, okay, make me a painting in the style of Jeremy Mann. It just spits it out, and then okay, close enough, right? And make a print, whatever.
Also, too, it sucks that like if they can track, so you type the prompt and then the AI goes and gets it. So that's trackable.
Right.
So it's like, if you do that, then you should be able to just kick him down. It's like, oh, you're jacking that guy's artwork. Jeremy Mann needs to get a check.
Right. You should. Yeah.
Or be able to, like, actually, you can't use my work. But if you do, it automatically you have to pay me.
Yeah.
And it's undefendable, because it's like, no, how did you
How did you train that?
Yeah, how'd you get inspired by my work?
Right, exactly.
If you don't know who I am. Yeah, sometimes it's like this weird double standard with stuff like that.
Well, that's why, and we didn't get into this element of it 2 episodes ago when we had our screenwriter, and he was talking a lot about the writer's strike, right? The producers trying to come to an agreement, and it's like,
that was crucial.
That was a crucial thing. It's like, you idiots are fighting over the pennies.
Right.
It should be producers, writers, actors, everybody linked arm in arm against Seattle, against Microsoft, against all those companies. It's like, that's the real fight. and you guys are playing around while these guys are up here. This is noise that doesn't even register for them.
Yeah.
And they're the ones that are making their models off of your content.
Right.
Whether you're No Name or whether you're Disney, they're stealing your stuff.
Definitely. All that, and I do think there are some other good uses too. So one of the things would be like, if I want like a reference of something, like say I want like, a goose flying in the air, but I want it in this direction. AI can spit out an image of a goose, in this particular direction that I want to see, and I can use that as a reference. Not necessarily copying it, or whatever.
Bird's eye view.
Yeah,
it's
perspective.
Like, that sort of thing to help give me either inspiration or maybe as a reference, but not like, thievery of living artist work is not good.
That's cool.
So that's kind of where I line.
What projects do you have going on right now where you're about to bust out?
Yeah, right now I'm working on a big 36 by 48 multi-figured piece called The Witch. And it's basically like this, it's going to be this sort of, it's almost like a, what is that one where Jesus is dying and the mother's holding Jesus? What's that called? I don't forget what it's
Michelangelo?
called. No. There's like a theme. There's a theme to that with the dying Jesus one.
He's got the best one though.
Yeah.
For sure.
Is it oil?
Yeah, it's gonna be. It is in oil, and basically, but like she's holding like this decaying like witch, and there's gonna be all this like glowing light from underneath, and there's these giant wasps, like crazy wasps, and there's gonna be these guys in the background with like, glowing torch and mist and all this stuff. So it's gonna be pretty cool and done.
Would that be under the like fantasy realm, or?
I guess so. It could be like fantastic realism or something like that. I guess that's a genre now.
You mentioned the dark arts earlier.
Yes,
Is
sir.
it like full on witchcraft or like?
Maybe references to it. I think one of my big challenges is I pump out so many ideas like in my sketchbook and stuff, and a lot of times I'll get so inspired to do another piece before I'm done with one. And so like, a lot of I'm like, no, I have to finish this before I move on to anything else. But it's like, I don't want to work on this. I want to work on my next piece.
Yeah, the passion's flowing the other way.
Yeah. So, which I mean, I guess if you're adept at shifting gears, like, especially with oil, like, I paint with walnut oil and it takes a while to dry. Like, I could theoretically, like, okay, take this off the easel and put the next one on,
Yeah, come back 3 weeks and...
Right, yeah, you can rotate, canvases, so there's no problem there, but,
You give yourself a deadline for something like that, 48 by 36?
I've been working on it for, like, fucking 2 years, dude.
Okay.
So that's the problem. My three biggest issues are time, and also time.
Damn.
So, because, day job, living in a home with a new puppy and like, just got shit going on, and so finding time, it's like you have to carve out like, sorry babe, I can't do the dishes tonight, I gotta go fucking paint,
For 25 minutes.
Or whatever.
Gotta have that boundary though.
Gotta wake up at 4 a.m. Guess like, like, do I want sleep or do I,
Get it in, yeah.
fucking hey, man.
So you don't have a deadline?
No. If somebody hires me, like a commission, I definitely do
okay.
set deadlines. But if it's like personal stuff, I probably should just like self-impose deadlines.
I found if there's some way to trick yourself into that.
Yeah.
Or I heard about, we were joking, I think, pre-production about the weight loss, like talking about it and versus actually doing the exercise.
Right.
This one dude told me about what he called the most successful thing ever. He says the Alpo diet.
Right.
Is go get a can of Alpo dog food. And go to a friend of yours and go, if I don't lose 5 pounds by the end of the month, I'm going to eat that.
Right.
You bring it back to me and you open it in front of me and I'm going to eat it. And I guarantee you'll hit the deadline on whatever
Right.
I'm going to go to the moon by the end of the decade and do the other thing. You'll do it.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So, and then there's that whole challenge too, obviously with artists, especially if you're trying to have any like sort of following or footprint. It's like you need to keep feeding the beast. Meaning like
the
Instagram
management.
and all that,
Do it
but it's
for
like,
the gram, bro.
but like
The publicity angle
but
is
you
a whole job of
also,
its own.
posting, progress pictures and videos and stuff like that also isn't really that good either because you're getting the reward before you finish. And so, it's like, do I want to keep people updated? Yeah, but I also, I need to fucking finish it, before I start sharing with the world because if everyone's like, oh, this is amazing, and then I just like, all right, I already got the praise, I don't need to finish it.
Well, I'm in a little bit of the straddle of my production process is so slow.
Right.
And I only really like publishing finished work because I like logging into an Instagram and seeing a nice, clean, like, ooh, it's all these photos of finished work, the lighting. And I am not a fan of seeing with the workshop tools and fluorescent lights and shit everywhere. But you need to be publishing regularly to be, maintaining engagement for them to show you to the crowd. And I've been trying to solve what's the bridge between those of like what kind of stuff can I put out regularly if I don't always have finished work to put out. Because I know there's artists out there that they also produce slow, but they are really good at that social media game, at just having something. Sometimes it's not even related to production of the art, but it's something that like is in their vibe and flavor enough that the people who follow them for their art see that and they like that too. They engage with that too.
I also would say sometimes like it's better not to do anything, because sometimes that could just be fake. Like, hey, I'm going to the art store, or whatever it is. Like, I just got all these canvases, and I see like there's that, and then I also see like, I don't want to say a particular group of people, but let's say someone's really sexy and scantily clad, dressed, and they pose with their artwork. Like, oh, I did this painting, and then,
it helps. Absolutely,
it helps. But it also is just like, it's just like it's a little.
That's one of those things where
it's kind of disappointing sometimes.
I get that, and I don't want like my own website where I own it. You would never see that kind of thing, but I'm still coming to the realization that you go on Instagram, you go
get the pokies out.
Exactly, it's like I'm in Zuckerberg's court now, and if I want success here, play by the rules that work well there. And so and I'm struggling with that. I'm still adapting to that.
You gotta show some cheek, bro.
But also
exactly, like you don't want to see the front. I'm talking about the belly.
Use what you got, and like I don't want to like hate on that, but like I find myself withdrawing because I've been through several ups and downs with Facebook and Instagram. Like doing a lot, and also having another company with like more artists, where like now I haven't hired multiple people to like drive that train and do it better than I did. It allows me to like be way more picky with what I put out personally. And sometimes I think the best thing to put out is nothing. And it's like, then when you do, you come out with something like, oh, he's been going to work, and that would reflect more of like how I am in real life as an artist.
Yeah, it's about what you don't say.
Yeah, versus
reservation of quality.
Yeah, versus me just trying to stay in front of people or whatever. Because I hear what you're saying, like you kind of got to play both games, but also too like sometimes it's better to just don't say anything.
Well, that's the thing is because I adhere to that philosophically. And I don't see it working out well for me. And I'm like, there's some way that I can make the best of both of these. And I'm still honing in on that precision for what it's worth.
Toe the line. Yeah. Speaking of AI, our homie Cypher came up with this game for you.
Uh-oh.
We're going to take a little break and a little fun segment. This is called Mural Myth or Paint Truth.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, so you get a question here, and we're going to trade off, me and Eric. And you just tell us, is it a mural myth or a paint truth, in your opinion?
Okay.
All right, first one. Murals are easy to plan because you just scale up a sketch.
You said they're easy to plan?
Yeah.
Mural myth.
Good on.
It's hard because you do scale up, a sketch, but like
it doesn't make it easy.
It's not easy, and it's also there's a lot more that goes into murals as far as like composition like changes depending on the size of the image. So like, and also like I have to think about like when with certain murals or something, like I think about where the viewers are going to be. So like if there's a mural that's on the side of a wall, but people are going to walk by, perpendicular to it, what are they going to see? So, messing with the composition to where they're going to see something really grabbing right in the front, that's, anyways.
If we can get a little technically nerdy for a second, your process of doing, like a sketch or something semi on a small scale that you then scale up to the wall, how do you go about the scaling? Because I know there's a lot of different methods. Different muralists have different ones that they like for different reasons.
And it changes during that process.
Right.
A lot of the big ones, I've gotten really lucky where it's actually kind of like a little strat I use where I'll actually use the cinder block wall.
As the grid.
Nice. So I'll make a custom grid in Photoshop where it's like the exact...
With the little offset of the
with
blocks
the offset
every other level.
And so I just use those, but that has messed me up sometimes.
That's good.
But yeah, so I have to do it in Photoshop where I'll make a grid of the full thing with X amount cinder blocks wide, where I'll double it and then I'll literally draw the lines in there. So that's one of the ways, but also just drawing in the foot things. You can use a projector. I haven't really done that yet. Yeah, I usually just make my own grid. And there's also like a doodle grid. I haven't tried that out. Where you like just draw a bunch of like squiggles and stuff, and you like take a picture of it, and then you just overlay your picture on top of that. There's all kinds of different ways.
It's kind of like pretty much eyeballing it at that point, I think. I don't know.
No, it's a funky type of grid. It's like a grid in a non-Euclidean space.
I can see why it'd be helpful, because you don't actually have to like measure anything. You just start drawing letters and shapes, take a picture of it, and then you just overlay the image with the grid showing through, and so you know, okay, this line goes through this X here.
And it has the dual advantage of making the progress shots of it really stand out on Instagram.
Shout out to
But I'd be afraid of like the doodle grid popping out underneath the image. I don't know. So
yeah, there's cool things that could be done there. All right.
Next.
Mural myth or paint truth. Wind can ruin a mural day faster than rain.
Yes. Mural, what is it? Paint truth? Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
For sure.
So,
wind's a motherfucker.
Note about that.
Knock you off the fucking...
Oh my god, yeah. So I was on a sizzle lift doing that 16 foot mural, and in Rio Vista they actually call it it's like the Delta wind tunnel or something, because like there's this pocket of heat in like the, I don't know, valley up there or whatever. So when it gets hot, it sucks in, it creates like this low pressure, so then the Bay Area winds go, basically Rio Vista gets windy as shit. The trees are bent sideways, and there were some days when I was painting
all the pine needles are flying off, landing in your paint.
Yeah, and so there's definitely some days where I'd grab onto the wall because the scissor lift's knocking me over or whatever.
Yeah,
it gets sketchy.
As a plein air painter, I've often said that too before. I can, like, when I'm engaged with painting plein air, I can deal with crowds. I can deal with cops. I can deal with dogs, babies. I can deal with rain, cold, or heat. But if it gets windy, especially because I paint large plein air, it's just like you're just constantly holding it, and then it takes you out of your head. Like, I can't get in a rhythm, and then, like, it's just like, just stop blowing for like 10. Yeah. Give me 10 minutes and no wind. Like, and it's just.
I've never done plein air, but I guess
I'll have to go sometime.
Yeah, I'll try it out.
Yeah, it's a good time. It's like the microwave version of something that's much more planned out, but you don't. It's like a finality,
right? It's like transient.
You're going,
the atmosphere's going,
and by the time we get back to the car, like the way I like to plein air paint, it's like the same way I like to live paint for entertainment.
Right.
It's like when I start, it's blank, and when I leave, it's finished.
Yeah.
Like I like to adhere to that as a philosophy. And even if you have to tweak a few things the next day or whatever, but if you go into it with that mentality, you're gonna get the best version of what you do best. Like, you're really gonna capture, because it's gonna be like a blurt of all your skills. Like, here it is, and then you're like, and then you're out.
Then you're done. Yeah.
You can practice your deadlines.
There you go. Yeah.
It does help with deadlines. Let's see. All right. Mural myth or paint truth. Number 3. You don't need permits if the wall is privately owned.
I'm not a good person to ask for that one.
He's like,
I'll say that's truth.
He's like, I can either
confirm nor deny this statement.
Well, I actually,
if the glove does not fit.
He's like, allegedly, there's no zoning or city codes.
Well, so I actually did a mural for the city of Fairfield like 2 years ago, and I didn't need a permit, but apparently in California there are laws that muralists can run into. Basically, it's like you're supposed to be like, I don't know what it's called, like
certified or something.
Schedule C. You basically need to be a contractor and have your contractor's license.
Damn.
To like.
No shit.
That's what. Well, if you're making over like $100 painting on a building, basically. But they're trying to get rid of that because it's absolute bullshit. Basically,
it's whack, yeah.
But I've also never really had any issues, and I know a lot of muralists in California that haven't had issues, and that's because basically the only people that like require it are like schools. And a lot of the murals they're doing are just like big letters and stuff anyways.
Yeah.
So
this school.
Kinda,
It's like, it's also illegal to host a sheep drive of more than 1,000 head down Hollywood Boulevard, but it's rarely enforced.
Right.
Go do what you want.
Bonus round. Myth bust a real story, like the worst client feedback you ever got on a mural, or time a design that had to be changed at last minute on site.
So is it like a truth or dare?
Just know, like, as you're doing a mural, it's not painting truth or myth. It's just give us some color.
Question.
Give us some color about like how like you had to pivot sometime like during the mural process.
Pivot, okay. So
like the client changed their mind, or like, oh, you only have a week to finish, or we're cutting the budget.
Not any like big ones, but yeah, like one of the things the city of Fairfield, when I did that one, the building we were painting on, they were trying to grease the wheels a bit with the building owners. They were trying to just, I don't know, be nice or something, and so like the building owner requested that I like put their dog in it, which was fine. You know, which, I mean, it's like this little shit white dog, but like, you know, it was fine. And then I also like they increased their budget, so it was fine, but I basically painted the rest of the building, so like no mural, but just like contractor painted the building. You know, I was like, you know what, fuck it, like pay me $50 a square foot. No,
roll out.
No, and
put the dog getting eaten by a Sasquatch in the woods.
But then there was two other things where, like, just, you know, because you get a lot of like passerbys and stuff when you're doing your mural, and like, especially in like a public like downtown place, and like one of them, this lady straight up said like my design was boring, which I'm like, bitch.
Yeah, we got beef now.
Yeah, no,
hand to the brush.
Which is fine.
See what you can do.
Yeah,
because I also kind of agreed with her, which is fine, and then another dude straight up was like, was like yelling at me from his truck. He's like, "Are you getting paid with taxpayer dollars?" You know,
oh, man.
He's like, "This city is," you know, he's just going off about like how the city's spending tax money on me, but he's like getting, you know, his land is getting messed up or something. I'm like, dude, like, go talk to the city. Like, yeah,
artists gotta take it on the chin sometimes.
Like, talk to your representative, because like your representatives are the ones that hired me to do this art with taxpayer money. So
you're like, the answer is yes.
Yeah. So
I'm getting it. That's cool. All right. Well, thanks for playing the mural myth
or
fun. Art truth. What do you got the rest of the summer? Like, are you going to do any like? Well, you can come help us on our big giant group mural here, but is there anything like you got lined up or looking for a mural? Because if you guys want a muralist, we know this guy Nick Stiles.
Well, I appreciate that.
He's hiring.
Yeah, definitely looking.
What would you want to do? Like, that would be like totally fun and not boring, but also like a big city thing or whatever.
You're talking about like subject matter?
Or subject matter, or just like maybe size or who it's for.
Or all of the above. Yeah, media, subject.
Like if they call tomorrow, you're like,
two people. I was trying to get one on Art Supply Warehouse, because they hire muralists, and then also Long Beach Walls, which is formerly Powwow Long Beach. So Long Beach, like every year, they have like this big mural festival, and I really want to get hired for one of those. But I feel like I gotta like make more murals to get those. You know, so I definitely want to do that.
What about your dark arts this year? You're gonna do you do like any kind of convention for stuff like that? Like I know it's like cosplay is huge.
I haven't really done conventions. They just, you know, from what I've heard, they're just a lot of work. You know, like get tables and all that stuff. But so the way like my, I guess, quote, dark art, I tend to do more overtly dark graphic stuff in different formats. So like I tend to think about what's the end goal with this art, and so like if I'm doing like one of these things I'm working on is actually called an exploding figures book, and I've been working on these things where they're literally like these really detailed graphic exploding figures, so body parts and stuff like that.
Big Trouble in Little China.
What?
Big Trouble in Little China.
Okay.
I'll send you the link.
My brother just watched that the other day.
Literally, the guy who inhales, like he inflates until he explodes.
Right. Okay. So I'll try that out. And
is it a graphic novel? Or
it's gonna just
more like
be
an art book.
The thing is, it's gonna be an art book, but
what would be the difference? There's no
story or anything. It's just gonna be a bunch of different styles and stuff like that. So I'm working on that slowly but surely. But then, so, you know, I want to work on my, you know, my darker paintings and stuff too. I don't want to keep saying dark because it's like not everything's going to be overtly dark. You know, it's like I do have to think about, okay, do I want, you know, are people going to want to put this in their living room? You know, like
so commercial.
I don't want to say commercial either because I want to stay true to myself. But it's like I can find ways.
It's more of a fantasy. Like I'm trying to think of a word better than dark. For you, having seen the work, because there's a dark element, but that is a little bit limiting.
Right.
But also too, if you like it and you're capable of like making this artwork just that descriptive, regardless of the adjective we give it, someone else is gonna like it too. Like,
right.
You know, it's like, so sometimes you just gotta go all in. You gotta burn the ships. You know.
Yeah, I gotta just carve out the time for it, and I'll just show you when I'm done, because I feel like trying to put like a label on exactly what kind of crap I produce.
That's cool.
Good stuff. But.
Yeah, let the work speak.
Yeah.
Sure.
So we'll see.
That's cool.
We'll see what happens.
Cool, man. Well, do you have any other art stories you want to share with us that's going on right now?
Man.
Any exhibits?
What does the world need to know?
Yeah.
If you're an artist, be kind to yourself, because there's a lot of things I didn't know when I graduated college, like what is it, over 70% of all the art you see in galleries is like part-time artists. People have day jobs, and it's like, be cool.
Yeah. Yeah, if you be cool stuff happens.
That's great advice.
For sure. Well, thanks for coming on.
Thank you for
Nick,
having me.
And we actually look forward to the next time you teach, or just come.
I'll start building up a curriculum or something.
Come to Wednesday night. Yeah, I'd like to see something dynamic. Like, we need to have somebody coming out of the rafters or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Full speed and costume too.
Yeah.
And you missed out. You weren't here at Jillian's the other night. We did the long.
Yeah, I've been. I got a new puppy, so I've been quite busy at home. But hopefully pretty soon.
It was cool because it was a little more specific. She had like this.
Right.
What we call her, Princess Leia.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. She
Cinnamorals?
Yeah. No, she had horns.
Oh, nice.
Double horns instead of.
I didn't tell you how I found this place, did you?
No, tell us a quick story.
Through her. Through Jillian.
Shout out to Jillian.
I've known Jillian for like 20 years.
And how is that? How'd you guys meet?
An online forum, back when we were like in middle school, there was like an online anime forum called Manga Academy, and it was basically we just post our artwork and stuff, and then we became friends on there and just stayed in touch.
Were you guys mathletes?
What? No.
Dorks? Were you guys dorks? Like,
yeah, kind of. Yeah, we were little weebs, and so like she's from Maryland. And like, we were good friends. We still are good friends. And it was just because I was living in Long Beach, and then I was following her on Instagram before she even like moved out here and stuff. And then I started seeing her like, posing and stuff for like Location 1980, and I look, it says like Costa Mesa. I'm like, what the fuck? That's like 30 minutes from me. Nice. So I was like, all right, I guess I'll try it out. So I came down for Live Drawing one day.
That's great.
Now you're like one of the star performers in the.
Thank you. No,
we're better off for having you. When Jill told me that too, because Jill works here in a formal capacity, but she's also a muse. Right. And she was like, I know that guy for however many years. I'm like, how old are you? That guy didn't. I was like, when'd you meet him? When you're like 4?
Yeah, we were like middle school, I think.
That's cool. No, it's cool because like you don't hear that a lot. Like where I guess, especially in art. Right. Like it'd be one thing if you're like it's like a dating service or even a job thing, but like you just like artists who like art, the same kind of art, and then years later you meet up at an art place.
Right.
Like art, it's like pretty neat.
Yeah. This place is actually like cool as fuck, and I just say that because like one of the things I miss the most about college, art school. I don't think anyone needs to go to art school, whatever, but. One is the main thing is like the community and like the like the
camaraderie,
yeah, like being able to talk and like ask people advice about your work or give advice and all that stuff, because that's the big thing I feel like that's missing. Like I primarily do my work out of my home because I have the space for it, but I feel like it would be cool to have a spot here where it's like having people like come by and all that.
The door's always open, man. Yeah. In whatever capacity. We're glad you're taking a part of it, and thanks for saying that, because this is one of the reasons too we have the podcast, because a lot of the artists and even our patrons can come through brick and mortar, but that vibe can be shared with everyone who could listen online right now,
right?
Because the majority of people ever going to listen to this aren't going to be able to come through here, but you proved a point with telling the story about how you met Jill. It's like you don't have to like actually be there to kind of still be stoked on the same things,
right.
Common ground,
Yeah.
especially when we can actually show a lot of this work and post links to all our guests' work.
Right.
So we're just trying to share that. So I appreciate you saying it's cool as fuck.
Yeah. No,
that's pretty much our new tagline. I didn't know we were going to come out with it.
What's that?
Our new branding.
That's our subtitle now. Yeah. Thanks for providing it.
What?
Cool as fuck.
Yeah.
Love it.
There is a genuineness there.
Well, no, it's like the thing too is like it's like a great spot for me because again, like the first time I ever taught a class, like I don't think a lot of places would like take that risk with me. Like if I wanted to just say I've never taught a class before, but like hey, my community college or like even art supply warehouse or something, like so you've never taught before ever and you want to teach class. It's like no, like this place gave me a chance and it was great. So
yeah,
like,
thanks. I mean it helps our community grow too, because I've often looked at this as an alternative learning institution,
right?
Because there's no curriculum other than what energy you bring to this place, like and having made it over the 15-year mark, basically something's going right, and we're always doing new stuff. So for me, if someone says I want to teach this class, like the last thing I'm going to say is no, and the first thing I'm going to say is yes, because it's like, oh, dude, you want to get after it, how do we support that? How do we make it good? How, we're gonna post it, and then we're gonna participate, and we're gonna learn and have fun and do it again, and who knows where that spawns. We could make a book, or we could do a YouTube. We could be live, like maybe our next workshop's online also.
Right.
And then people listening now can watch it at home,
tune in,
while we're doing
online
it. So,
learning, man. It's been popping off.
Yeah, it's something where like usually like if it's someone trying to bring furniture here, I'm gonna say no. But if they're bringing me a good idea, says I want to do some cool art stuff, usually the answer is gonna be yes.
Right.
So thanks for bringing your cool art stuff here.
Man.
We appreciate
Thanks
that.
so much, man.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
And with that, I think we are gonna sign off. Thanks to our guest Nick Stiles, my co-host Eric Ringman. This is Location 1980's Art Podcast.
Right. Cheers.
And where we talk about art with artists, and we appreciate you guys following, liking, subscribing, sharing, and word of mouth.
Most important, tell your friends.
Yeah, and give it a listen, and let us know what you think. Cheers.